Let me tell you something. When your neighbor tries to throw you out of your own home and turns the entire neighborhood against you, it doesn't take long to see their true face. I'm Sarah. I'm 35 years old and I have a beautiful home in Pine Valley Estates. Or I did, until Karen moved in next door. Karen is around 45, with short blonde hair, always perfectly made up, and acts like the world owes her something. When we first met, she seemed nice, but it didn't take long before she showed her true colors. It all started in May 2023, the day I put out my new garden decorations. Karen came to my door. She had a cup of coffee in her hand, but the expression on her face was anything but friendly. "Sarah," she said, with a fake smile, "we need to talk about these decorations." I looked at the colorful pinwheels and flower-patterned flags I had placed in my garden. "What about them?" I asked. "They violate HOA rules," Karen said, crossing her arms. "They don't match the neighborhood aesthetic. You need to remove them." Something stirred inside me. I had read the HOA rules twice. There was no prohibition on garden decorations. "Karen, there's nothing in the rules about this," I said calmly. Her face flushed. "It's obvious you haven't lived here as long as I have. There are unwritten rules." "Everyone knows. Unwritten rules," I said, bewildered. "Karen, if I need to talk to Barbara, the HOA president, I will, but I'm not removing my decorations." Karen rolled her eyes and turned around. "You'll regret this," she muttered as she left. That's when I realized Karen wasn't just a cranky neighbor. She was a control freak, and she had chosen me as her target. The next day, when I checked my mail, I found an official-looking envelope. It was from the HOA. Inside was a warning letter. My garden decorations were violating neighborhood standards and needed to be removed within 7 days. The signature was Barbara's, but the writing style wasn't like her at all. Barbara was always professional and kind. This letter was harsh and commanding. I examined the letter carefully. The paper quality wasn't good, different from the HOA's official letterhead. Also, Barbara's signature looked slightly off. The curve of the B wasn't right. This was a fake document, I was sure. I immediately picked up the phone and called Barbara. "Barbara, is this letter real?" I asked. "What letter?" she said, confused. I read her the letter. Barbara took a deep breath. "Sarah, I didn't send such a letter. Before sending an official warning from the HOA, I would talk to you personally. This is very strange. Also, we don't give 7-day deadlines. We always give 30 days. This is definitely fake." "So who sent it?" I asked. "I don't know, but I'll investigate. Meanwhile, don't remove your decorations. You haven't done anything against the rules. And keep this letter. It will be useful as evidence," Barbara said firmly. There was anger in her voice. "Sarah, let me tell you something. I've lived in this neighborhood for 30 years and been HOA president for 10 years. I will never allow such fraud." Barbara's words comforted me but also worried me. If this really was a fraud operation, how far could Karen go? When Yungape felt a bit better, but my peace didn't last long. Karen had started a campaign against me in the neighborhood. She was telling neighbors my garden was an eyesore. Some started looking at me strangely. Some told me directly that I was disrupting the neighborhood order. A week later, when I came home from work, I saw that half of my garden decorations were gone. My pinwheels, most of my flags, everything had disappeared. But worse, some of my flowers had been pulled out too. My red and yellow tulips, the flowers I had carefully planted in spring with my own hands, were gone, roots and all. My garden looked like a battlefield, like someone had deliberately destroyed everything I loved. Furious, I knocked on Karen's door. 1, 2, 3 times. Finally, Karen opened the door. She had a glass of wine in her hand and was smiling. "Sarah, how are you?" she said as if nothing had happened. "Karen, what happened to my garden decorations?" I asked. My voice was trembling with anger. Karen opened the door a bit more and shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe the wind blew them away." The wind. Karma, these were pulled from the ground. Even the roots of my flowers had been removed. Someone deliberately took them, I said. And you know who did it? Karen's smile widened. Can you prove it? She said. Maybe you've removed them yourself and are trying to blame me. Be careful, Sarah, Karen said, her voice turning ice cold. Slander is a serious crime. Sarah, if you can't get along with your neighbors, maybe this neighborhood isn't right for you, Karen said, slamming the door in my face. I just stood there at the door, in shock. Karen not only threatened me, but also tried to make me look guilty. This woman was truly dangerous and clearly had done this before. That night, I couldn't sleep. Karen was running a campaign to kick me out and doing everything she could. But why? What had I done to her? I just wanted to decorate my garden. Why was this so important to her? The next morning, I found another letter in my mailbox. This time it was signed by the HOA Board of Directors. The letter stated an $800 fine for unauthorized garden modifications. It also said that if I didn't correct these violations within 30 days, my house could be foreclosed by the HOA. The letter looked official, with stamps and signatures, but I knew it was another one of Karen's forgeries. This time, I went straight to Barbara's house. When I knocked, Barbara opened the door with a cup of tea in her hand. Sarah, how are you? She said. But when she saw my face, her brows furrowed. Is something wrong? I handed her the letter. As Barbara read it, her face turned red. This is ridiculous. I didn't write this. The HOA board didn't make such a decision. Sarah, someone is sending fake documents. Who's doing this? I asked, my voice trembling. Barbara took a deep breath. I have my suspicions, but I need to prove it. Sarah, you can trust me. I'll protect you. Meanwhile, keep these letters. They'll be useful as evidence. As I walked home, I felt a bit more hopeful. Barbara was on my side, but I didn't yet know how far Karen would go. That evening, late at night, there was a knock on my door. When I looked outside, I saw Karen, but this time she had 3 other neighbors with her. They all looked angry. When I opened the door, Karen stepped forward. Sarah, we're having a neighborhood meeting. About your situation? What situation? I asked. You keep violating neighborhood rules, Karen said, and we don't want you living here. The other neighbors nodded. Yes, one of them said. Your garden is a disgrace. You're lowering our property values. I tried to hold back my tears. I just have a few decorations in my garden. I haven't done anything against the rules. The HOA fined you, Karen said triumphantly. $800. If you don't pay, you'll lose your house. That fine is fake, I said. Barbara confirmed it. The HOA didn't make such a decision. Karen's face changed for a moment. I saw something like panic in her eyes, but she quickly recovered. Barbara is an old woman. She might be confused, but the documents have your signature. What signature? I asked in surprise. Karen pulled out a paper from her pocket. This. You're saying here that you accept the HOA rules. I took the paper and examined it carefully under the light. It really did look like my signature, but I hadn't signed anything like this. This is fake, I said firmly. I didn't sign this. Prove it, Karen said, smiling. That's when I realized Karen had planned this. Fake documents, fake signatures, turning neighbors against me. It was all part of a plan. But why? What did she want from me? As Karen and the other neighbors left, I noticed something. A key fell from Karen's pocket. I quickly bent down and picked it up. There was a label on it. New house, Pine Valley 34. Pine Valley 34. My house number. My heart started racing. Why was Karen carrying my house key? I was about to call Barbara when my phone rang. The screen showed unknown number. When I answered, Karen's voice came through. Sarah, I'm giving you 3 days to leave the house. Otherwise, I'll tell everyone your secret. What secret? I asked, my voice trembling. Karen giggled. I thought you knew, but don't worry. You'll find out very soon, and then nobody in the neighborhood will want to talk to you. The line went dead. My hands were shaking. What secret was Karen talking about? Asterisk. 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 Answer the question in the comments. What could the secret Karen discovered be? Write your guesses. Asterisk, 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 but the real shock came the next day. When I checked my mail in the morning, I found another official-looking envelope. This time it was an actual court document. Karen was suing me with charges of illegal property occupation and use of false identity. The document stated, Defendant Sarah Mitchell has no right to live at Pine Valley. The property belongs to the true owner, Karen Donovan. The defendant entered this property through identity. My knees buckled. Was Karen claiming she owned my house? This was insane. But the document was real. Court seal. Date. Everything was in place. The court date was in 10 days. Karen was trying to destroy me, not just in the neighborhood, but legally too. That night, I called Barbara and told her everything. The fake documents, the threats, the lawsuit. Barbara listened quietly and then said, Sarah, I need to tell you something. Karen has done things like this in the neighborhood before. 2 years ago, she targeted another neighbor. An elderly man. She tried to kick him out of his house too. But back then, no one believed him because there was no evidence. Now you're in the same situation. So what happened to that man? I asked. Barbara took a deep breath. He sold his house and moved away. Karen won, but not this time. I promise you. Barbara's determined voice comforted me a bit, but I had a fear inside me. I now knew how powerful Karen was and how far she could go. And then I remembered the key Karen had dropped. I should show it to Barbara. Maybe this was the key to uncovering Karen's plan. But just as I was about to call Barbara, there was another knock on my door. I opened it without looking. A big mistake. Karen was standing at the door. But this time, she wasn't alone. She had 2 police officers with her. Officer, Karen said dramatically, this is her. The woman illegally living in my house. I told you. One of the officers stepped forward. On the young officer's badge it said Officer Davis. Ms. Mitchell, we need to talk to you. About what? I asked, my heart racing wildly. Miss Donovan filed a complaint about illegal occupation. She says this house belongs to her and you entered without permission. This is ridiculous, I said. This house is mine. I pay my mortgage. I have documents. Karen pulled out an envelope from her pocket. Officer, look. This is my deed. The house belongs to me. This woman forged my signature and took over the house with fake documents. Officer Davis took the document and examined it. His brows furrowed. Ms. Mitchell, these are serious accusations. We need to see your documents too. Of course, I said, trembling. I ran inside and pulled out my files. Purchase agreement, deed, bank statements. Everything was there. I handed them to Officer Davis. Officer Davis compared both documents. He looked silently for a long time. Then he turned to Karen. Ms. Donovan, these documents contradict each other. You both have deeds for the same house? This is a serious matter. You'll need to come to the station. Karen's face went pale. But Ms. Donovan, this is an official investigation. Please come with us. At that moment, Barbara came running from across the street. She had a file in her hand. Officer... Wait! Barbara reached us, out of breath, and handed the file to the officer. Officer, I'm Barbara Henderson, the HOA President of this neighborhood, and I have very important documents to present to you. Officer Davis opened the file and began examining it. Karen's face was getting paler and paler. What are these? The officer asked. Fake HOA documents that Karen Donovan sent to Sarah Mitchell over the last 3 months. Barbara said, letters bearing my signature that I never sent. Fake penalty notices, fake court documents. I examined them all, and they're all fake. Also here is evidence of similar things Karen did to another neighbor of ours 2 years ago. Karen stepped back. "This is a lie. Barbara is old, confused. Ms. Donovan," Officer Davis said sternly. "These documents are very serious. Fraud, scam, harassment. We need to read you your rights." Karen's face turned red with anger. "No, this is unfair. That house should have been mine." She stopped. The words that slipped from her mouth hung in the air. "That house should have been yours." Officer Davis said, "Interesting statement. Please come with us, Ms. Donovan." As the police took Karen away, Barbara turned to me and put her hand on my shoulder. "Sarah, everything will be okay, but there's much more we need to talk about." "What do you mean?" Barbara took a deep breath. "Sarah, I investigated why Karen wanted your house so much, and what I found was shocking. There's something under your house, something very valuable. And Karen knew about it." "What?" I asked, breathless. "What's under my house?" Before Barbara could answer, she looked around. "This isn't the right place to talk. Come to my office tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I'll tell you everything. But Sarah, be prepared. What you're about to learn will change your life." The next morning at 9 o'clock sharp, I knocked on Barbara's office door. My hands were trembling. What could possibly be under my house that Karen wanted so desperately? Barbara opened the door immediately. "Sarah, come in. Please, sit down." Her face was serious. More serious than I had ever seen her. I sat down on the leather chair across from her desk. Barbara pulled out a thick folder and placed it between us. "Sarah, what I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but every word is true. I've spent the last 3 weeks investigating this." "Just tell me," I said, my heart pounding. "What's under my house?" Barbara took a deep breath. "Do you know the history of Pine Valley Estates?" "Not really. I just moved here 2 years ago. This land was once owned by the Morrison family. They were gold miners back in 18. They found gold in these hills and made a fortune. But when the gold rush ended, they buried the remaining gold somewhere on their property and left. No one ever found it." I leaned forward. "Gold. Are you saying there's gold under my house?" Barbara nodded slowly. "Not just any gold. According to historical records, the Morrison family buried approximately 500 pounds of gold coins and bars. At today's prices, that's worth over $10 million. My jaw dropped. $10 million under my house. It couldn't be real. "But how does Karen know about this?" I asked, still trying to process the information. Barbara opened the folder and pulled out several documents. Karen's great-grandfather was Walter Morrison, one of the gold miners. The story has been passed down in her family for generations. She's been obsessed with finding it for years. When the land was developed into Pine Valley Estates in 1965, the gold was never found. But Karen believes she knows where it is, and she thinks it's under my house. Not thinks, knows. Look at this." Barbara showed me an old map, yellowed with age. On it, I could see the outline of Pine Valley Estates, and there, marked with a red X, was my exact property. This map was in the Morrison family archives. Karen found it 3 years ago. I stared at the map, my mind racing. So that's why she wanted George's house first. It must have been near the location, too. Exactly, George's house was close, but after she bought it and searched, she realized the map was off by about 50 feet. Your house is the actual location. That's why she became desperate. That's why she's been harassing you. But the gold belongs to me, right? It's on my property. Barbara smiled grimly. That's where it gets complicated. The Morrison family never officially claimed the gold. They just buried it and left. Legally, it could belong to whoever finds it. But since it's on your property, you have the strongest claim. Karen knows this. That's why she's been trying to steal your house through fraud and intimidation. I sat back in the chair, overwhelmed. So, what we need to find the gold before Karen gets out of jail. She was released on bail yesterday, $5,000. And I guarantee she's not going to give up. Wait, she's out. Already? Barbara nodded. Her lawyers are good. Very good. The charges against her are serious, but they're complex. It could take months before the trial. In the meantime, she's free. A chill ran down my spine. Karen was out there, somewhere, probably planning her next move. Sarah, we need to excavate your property. Today. Right now. Before Karen tries something else. Excavate, but where exactly? My house is 2,000 square feet. It could be anywhere under the foundation. Barbara pulled out another document. I hired a ground-penetrating radar specialist. He scanned your property last week when you were at work. I hope you don't mind, it was important to move quickly. You did what? I said, shocked. I had to. Karen has been watching your house. If we waited, she might have broken in and searched herself. The radar found something, Sarah. Under your basement, about 8 feet down, there's a large metal deposit. It could be the gold. My heart started racing again. This was really happening. There was actually gold under my house. So, what's the plan? I asked. I've already contacted a private excavation company. They're standing by. We can start this afternoon. It will take about 3 days to dig safely without damaging your foundation. But Sarah, once we start, Karen will know. The entire neighborhood will know. Are you ready for that? I thought about everything Karen had put me through. The harassment, the fake documents, the threats. She had tried to destroy my life for gold. Well, now it was my turn. Let's do it, I said firmly. Let's find that gold. Barbara smiled. Good, I'll make the call. That afternoon, a crew of 5 workers arrived at my house with excavation equipment. They set up barriers around my property and began preparing the basement for digging. The sound of machinery echoed through the neighborhood. Neighbors started gathering outside, curious about what was happening. I could see them whispering to each other, pointing at my house. Some took photos with their phones. Jack came over immediately. Sarah, what's going on? Is everything okay? Everything's fine. Jack, just some foundation work. Nothing to worry about. He looked skeptical, but didn't push. If you need anything, let me know. This seems like a big project. By evening, word had spread throughout the neighborhood like wildfire. People were talking, speculating, coming up with theories. Some said I was remodeling my entire basement. Others said the house had serious structural damage and might even be condemned. But I knew it was only a matter of time before Karen found out the truth. And I was right. At 7:30 that evening, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and my stomach dropped. It was Karen. But she wasn't alone. She had brought a man in an expensive suit, probably one of her lawyers. I opened the door, but kept the chain lock on. What do you want, Karen? Karen smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Sarah, we need to talk. This is my lawyer, Mr. Harrison. May we come in? No? Say what you need to say from there. Mr. Harrison stepped forward. He was about 50 years old, with gray hair and cold eyes. Ms. Mitchell, I represent Miss Donovan in several legal matters. We understand you're conducting excavation work on your property. So what if it's my property? Actually, that's debatable, Mr. Harrison said smoothly. We have reason to believe there are historical artifacts buried on this property. Such artifacts may fall under state protection laws. Any excavation could be illegal without proper permits. I felt my anger rising. Historical artifacts, is that what you're calling it now? Karen's smile faded. Sarah, I know you know about the gold. Barbara told you, didn't she? Well, let me tell you something. That gold belongs to my family. My great-grandfather buried it. It's my inheritance. Your inheritance? Karen, you tried to steal my house. You harassed me, sent fake documents, turned the neighborhood against me. All for gold that you have no legal claim to. Mr. Harrison held up his hand. Ms. Mitchell, my client, may have made some mistakes in judgment, but that doesn't change the fact that the Morrison family has a historical claim to any gold found on this property. We're prepared to offer you a settlement. A settlement? $200,000. Cash. If you stop the excavation and transfer any findings to Ms. Donovan. I almost laughed. $200,000 for $10 million in gold? They must think I was stupid. Get off my property, Primera said coldly. Both of you. Now. Karen's face turned red. You're making a mistake, Sarah. A big mistake. I will fight you in court. I will sue you for everything you have. That gold is mine. We'll see about that, I said, and slammed the door. Through the peephole, I watched them leave. Karen was yelling at her lawyer, gesturing wildly. She was losing control. I immediately called Barbara. Karen just came to my house with her lawyer. They offered me $200,000 to stop digging. Barbara whistled. $200,000. That confirms it. The gold is definitely there. She wouldn't offer that much if she wasn't certain. They threatened legal action, said the gold belongs to the Morrison family. Don't worry, I've already consulted with our HOA attorney. The gold was abandoned property. It's been buried for over 140 years. Karen has no legal claim, but she will try to make your life difficult. Are you sure you want to continue? Absolutely. I'm not backing down. Good. The crew will continue tomorrow. Get some rest. But rest was impossible. That night, I lay awake, listening to every sound. I kept expecting Karen to break in, to try something desperate. Around 2 in the morning, I heard a noise outside. I jumped out of bed and looked out the window. Someone was in my backyard. I could see a flashlight beam moving around near the excavation site. My heart pounded as I grabbed my phone and called 911. 911. What's your emergency? There's someone in my backyard. An intruder. Stay inside and lock your doors. Police are on the way. I kept watching from the window. The flashlight was still there, moving closer to the house. Then I saw the figure more clearly in the moonlight. It was Karen. She was digging with a shovel, frantically trying to reach the gold herself. Her movements were desperate, erratic. She had completely lost control. 5 minutes later, police sirens filled the air. Karen looked up, panicked, and tried to run. But the police were faster. They caught her at the edge of my property. Still holding the shovel, she struggled against them, screaming incoherently. I went outside as the officers were putting handcuffs on Karen. She was screaming, crying, completely hysterical. Her perfectly styled hair was messy. Her clothes were covered in dirt. It's mine. That gold is mine. My great-grandfather buried it. It belongs to my family. You can't take it from me. Officer Davis was there again. He recognized me. Ms. Mitchell, are you okay? Fine. Thank you for coming so quickly. This is the second time we've dealt with Ms. Donovan regarding your property. She's violated her bail conditions. The judge won't be happy. As they led Karen away, she turned back to look at me. The hatred in her eyes was terrifying. This isn't over, she hissed. I'll get that gold, whatever it takes. The next morning, the excavation continued. The entire neighborhood was out watching. Now, everyone knew something big was happening. Barbara stood beside me as the workers dug deeper and deeper into my basement floor. How much longer? I asked nervously. The radar showed the deposit at 8 feet. They're at 7 feet now. Should be any time. 30 minutes later, one of the workers shouted, "We hit something." Barbara and I rushed down to the basement. The workers had uncovered the top of a large metal box, covered in rust and dirt. It was real. The Morrison gold was actually here. Carefully, the foreman said. We need to lift it out intact. It took another hour to fully excavate the box. It was massive, about 4 feet long, 3 feet wide, and 2 feet deep. The workers used a pulley system to lift it out of the hole and place it on my basement floor. My hands were shaking as I approached the box. Barbara had called a locksmith to help us open it safely. The lock was old and rusted, but the locksmith managed to pick it after 15 minutes. "Ready?" Barbara asked. "Primera, no death." Together, we lifted the lid. Inside, gleaming even through layers of dust and time, were hundreds of gold coins and bars. The Morrison family treasure. $10 million, and it was on my property. I looked up at Barbara with tears in my eyes. "I can't believe this is real." Barbara smiled. "Believe it. You're a millionaire, Sarah." The workers took photos and documented everything. Barbara called the police to officially report the find. Within hours, news crews arrived. The story of the Morrison gold had been a local legend for decades, and now it was finally found. That evening, as I sat in my living room, surrounded by reporters and cameras, I thought about Karen. She was in jail again, her bail revoked. She had lost everything: her reputation, her freedom, and the gold she had been obsessed with for so long. But there was still one more surprise waiting for me. As the reporters were leaving, Barbara pulled me aside. "Sarah, there's something else you need to know. Something I found in the historical records." "What is it?" Barbara hesitated. "The Morrison family. They didn't just bury gold here. They buried something else too. Something that might be even more valuable." My eyes widened. "What do you mean?" Barbara pulled out an old journal from her bag. "This belonged to Walter Morrison, Karen's great-grandfather. I found it in the county archives. According to his last entry, he buried the gold here, but he also buried documents, land deeds, mineral rights, claims to half the county." "Land deeds," I whispered. "How much land?" According to this, the Morrison family owned over 2,000 acres that were never officially transferred after they left. If those deeds are valid, and if we can find them, you could own half of Pine Valley. I couldn't breathe. "But where are they?" We just dug up the gold box. There was nothing else. Barbara pointed to a passage in the journal. Walter wrote that he buried the deeds separately. He wanted to keep them safe. He says here, "The gold lies where the old oak once stood, but the papers, the true treasure, rest beneath the guardian stones." Guardian stones. What does that mean? I don't know. But Sarah, if Karen finds out about this journal, she'll never stop. The gold was one thing, but land deeds worth potentially $100 million. She'll do anything to get them. As Barbara spoke, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. I opened it, and my blood ran cold. The message read, "You found the gold, congratulations, but you have no idea what you've started. The real treasure is still out there. And I know where to look. Sleep well, Sarah. K." I showed Barbara the threatening text message from Karen. Her face went pale. "She's out of control. We need to find those land deeds before she does something truly dangerous." I looked at Walter Morrison's journal again, reading the cryptic line, "The papers, the true treasure, rest beneath the guardian stones." What did it mean? Guardian stones. Primera, sighed slowly. "Barbara, are there any stone monuments or markers in Pine Valley?" "Something old, from the 1800s. Barbara thought for a moment. "There's the old cemetery at the edge of the neighborhood. It dates back to Some of the original settlers are buried there, including members of the Morrison family." My heart started racing. A cemetery, guardian stones, gravestones. Barbara, that must be it. But which gravestone? There are dozens in that cemetery. Some have been there for over 160 years. I flipped through the journal, looking for more clues. Near Tubuck, I found a hand-drawn sketch of what looked like two tombstones side by side. Under the sketch, Walter had written, "Mother and father watch over the legacy. Between them lies the future." His parents, Barbara said, reading over my shoulder. "The deeds must be buried between his parents' graves." "That's brilliant. Who would think to look there? We need to go there. Now." Before Karen figures it out, Barbara grabbed her car keys. "I'll drive. But Sarah, we need to be careful. If Karen is watching us, she'll know where we're going." We left through the back door and took Barbara's car, checking multiple times to make sure no one was following. The old Pine Valley Cemetery was about 2 miles away, tucked behind a grove of ancient oak trees that had probably stood there since before the gold rush. The sun was setting as we arrived, casting long orange and purple shadows across the weathered gravestones. The air was cool and smelled of earth and old flowers. There, Barbara pointed toward the northeast corner. "The Morrison family plot is over there, near those tall cypress trees." We walked quickly through the cemetery, our footsteps crunching on the gravel path. Some of the graves were so old the names had completely worn away, leaving just blank slabs of stone. Others had been lovingly maintained by descendants over the generations, with fresh flowers and polished marble. The Morrison plot was easy to find. It was one of the largest in the cemetery, surrounded by an ornate wrought iron fence that was rusting in places but still standing strong. Inside the fence were 6 gravestones of varying sizes and ages. I found what I was looking for immediately, 2 large granite stones side by side, matching in height and style. The inscriptions read, "James Morrison, born January 3rd, 8, died March 12th, 1894, beloved father and pioneer, and Margaret Morrison, born July 19th, 1825, died November 8th, 18, devoted mother and wife." Walter's parents, Barbara confirmed. The dates matched the historical records. Between the 2 stones was a narrow strip of ground, maybe 18 inches wide. The grass there looked slightly different from the rest of the plot, newer, less established. "Someone's been here recently," I said, kneeling down. "Look at the soil. It's been disturbed." Barbara pulled out her phone and turned on the flashlight. "We need to dig, but we have to be quiet. The cemetery closes at dusk. If the caretaker finds us, we'll have to explain what we're doing." I had brought a small gardening trowel from home. I started digging carefully, removing soil, inch by inch. The ground was soft, easier to dig than I expected. After about 20 minutes, my trowel hit something solid. "I found something," I whispered. We both dug faster, clearing away the dirt. It was a metal box, smaller than the gold container but similar in design. The box was about 12 inches long and 8 inches wide. I lifted it out carefully and brushed off the excess dirt. "Open it!" Barbara urged. The lock was old and rusted. I used the edge of the trowel to pry it open. The lid creaked as it lifted. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth that had somehow survived over a century, were documents, old, yellowed papers covered in faded ink. Barbara carefully unfolded the first document. Her hands were shaking. "Sarah, this is it. This is a land deed for 2,300 acres in Pine Valley County, dated September 14th, 18... signed by the county clerk and witnessed by 3 officials. There were more documents underneath. More deeds, mineral rights, water rights, all in the name of James Morrison and his descendants. "This is incredible," I breathed. "But are they still valid? It's been almost 150 years. That's for lawyers to determine. But if they are valid, you're not just wealthy, Sarah. You're one of the largest landowners in the county. This land includes most of Pine Valley Estates, the shopping center down the road, and parts of the state park." Just then, we heard a sound. Footsteps on gravel. Someone was coming. "Hide the box!" Barbara hissed. I quickly tucked the metal box under my jacket, and we stepped back from the grave. A flashlight beam swept across the cemetery. "Who's there?" A man's voice called, "The cemetery is closed." It was the caretaker. Barbara stepped forward, putting on a sad expression. "I'm so sorry. We were visiting family graves. We lost track of time." The caretaker came closer. He was an older man, maybe 70 years old. Wheat kind eyes. Folks, I understand. But we close at sunset. Insurance rules. You'll have to come back tomorrow. Of course, I said. We're leaving now. We walked quickly toward the parking lot. The metal box felt heavy under my jacket. I kept expecting the caretaker to stop us, to ask what I was carrying, but he just watched us go. As we reached Barbara's car, I noticed another vehicle parked nearby, a black sedan with tinted windows. The engine was running. Barbara, I said quietly, that car. I don't like this. Barbara saw it too. Get in. Quickly. We jumped into her car, and Barbara started the engine. As we pulled out of the parking lot, the black sedan followed us. My heart sank. Karen had found us. Or she had hired someone to follow us. This was bad. Very bad. They're following us, I said, looking in the side mirror. The sedan was maintaining a steady distance of about 50 feet, matching our speed exactly. Hold on, Barbara said grimly. She pressed the accelerator and the car lurched forward, the engine roaring as we picked up speed. We sped down the dark country road at 60 miles per hour, then 70. The black sedan kept pace behind us, its headlights bright in our mirrors. Barbara took a sharp turn onto a side street, tires squealing on the pavement. The sedan followed without hesitation. We need to lose them, I said, gripping the door handles so hard my knuckles turned white. What if they force us off the road? I know these roads, Barbara said, her voice steady, despite the terror of the moment. I've lived here for 30 years. I know every street, every alley, every shortcut. Trust me. She took another turn, then another, weaving through the residential streets like a race car driver. Left on Maple Street, right on Oak Avenue, straight through the intersection at Pine Road. The sedan was still behind us, but falling back slightly, struggling to keep up with Barbara's knowledge of the neighborhood. Then Barbara spotted what she was looking for, a narrow alley I hadn't noticed before, barely wide enough for one car. She turned sharply, killed the lights, and stopped. We sat in silence, barely breathing. The black sedan drove past the alley entrance, its engine fading into the distance. Did we lose them? I whispered. For now, but they know we went to the cemetery. They'll figure out we found something. We waited 5 more minutes. Then Barbara started the car again and took a different route back to my house. We kept checking the mirrors, but the sedan didn't reappear. When we got to my house, Barbara parked in the garage and we hurried inside. I locked every door and window. Then we spread the documents out on my dining room table. There were 15 documents in total. Land deeds, mineral rights certificates, water rights permits, all dated between 80 and 75 and 80, all in pristine condition considering their age, thanks to the oilcloth wrapping. We need a lawyer, Barbara said, someone who specializes in property law and historical claims. This is beyond my expertise. Do you know anyone? My nephew, David. He's a property attorney in the city. One of the best. I'll call him now. While Barbara called her nephew, I photographed each document carefully with my phone. If something happened to the originals, at least we'd have digital copies. Barbara finished her call. David can see us tomorrow morning at 8. He wants to examine the documents personally. He says if they're authentic and properly recorded with the county, they could still be legally binding. Could still be, I asked. What's the catch? Adverse possession. If someone has been using the land openly for a certain period in California, it's 5 years, they might have a claim to it. But that only applies if the original owner abandoned their rights. These documents show the Morrisons never abandoned anything. They just lost track of the papers. So what does that mean for me? It means you might actually own half the county, Sarah. And Karen knows it. That's why she's so desperate. She thought the gold was the prize. But it's nothing compared to these land rights. My phone buzzed. Another text from the unknown number. I opened it with shaking hands. I know you went to the cemetery. I know you found something. Hivi tame Sarah. Those documents belong to my family. My blood, not yours. Meet me at the old Morrison house tomorrow at noon. Come alone, or I'll make sure you never enjoy a single penny of that inheritance." Barbara read the message over my shoulder. The old Morrison house. That's George's old place, the one Karen bought. "Sarah, you can't go there. It's a trap. I know it's a trap. But what choice do I have? If I don't go, she'll keep escalating. Next time, it might not just be threats. Then we go to the police, show them the threats, and tell them what? That she sent text messages? They'll say it's a civil matter. They won't do anything unless she actually hurts someone." Barbara was quiet for a moment. "What if we set our own trap? We know she wants the documents. What if we give her fake ones?" I looked at her in surprise. "Fake documents. David can help us create convincing forgeries. We use them to catch Karen in the act of attempted theft or extortion. Get it on camera, then the police will have to act." It was risky, but it might be our only chance to stop Karen permanently. "Okay," I said, "let's do it." That night, I couldn't sleep at all. I kept thinking about tomorrow's meeting with Karen. What would she do when she realized the documents were fake? Would she become violent? Would she have backup? At 3 a.m, I heard a sound outside. A car door closing. I looked out the window and saw the black sedan parked across the street. Someone was watching my house. I called Barbara immediately. "There. Outside. Watching me? Don't go outside." "I'm calling the police." 10 minutes later, a police car pulled up. The black sedan immediately drove away. Officer Davis came to my door. "Ms. Mitchell, you called about suspicious activity?" I told him about the sedan following us from the cemetery and now parking outside my house. He wrote everything down. "I'll file a report, and I'll have patrol cars drive by more frequently tonight. But Ms. Mitchell, if this is related to your ongoing dispute with Ms. Donovan, you might want to consider getting a restraining order." "I will. Thank you, officer." After he left, I sat in my living room with all the lights on, clutching the metal box with the real documents. Tomorrow would be the showdown. Tomorrow, one way or another, this would end. At 7 a.m, Barbara arrived at my house with her nephew David. He was a sharp-looking man in his 40s, carrying a leather briefcase. "Signora Mitchell, I've examined digital copies of your documents. They're extraordinary. If authenticated, they represent one of the most significant historical property claims in California history. But first, let's deal with your immediate problem." He opened his briefcase and pulled out several documents that looked remarkably similar to the originals. "I worked all night on these. They'll pass a casual inspection. But under professional scrutiny, they're clearly modern reproductions." "Perfect," Barbara said. "Now we need to wire Sarah for audio and video." David pulled out a small camera and microphone. "This will record everything. It's legal in California, as long as you're a party to the conversation. Just keep it visible on your shirt collar. Don't hide it completely, or the footage might not be admissible in court." He attached the tiny camera to my jacket. It looked like a button. The microphone was even smaller, clipped inside my collar. "We'll be parked nearby," Barbara said. "If anything goes wrong, call us immediately. We'll have the police on standby too." At 11:30, I drove to George's old house, now Karen's property. It was a nice house, well-maintained, with a large front yard. Karen's car was already in the driveway. I took a deep breath, grabbed the folder containing the fake documents, and walked to the front door. Before I could knock, it opened. Karen stood there, but she looked completely different. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup smudged. She had dark circles under her eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Sarah," she said, her voice strangely calm. "Thank you for coming. Please, come inside. We have so much to discuss." Something about her tone made my skin crawl. This wasn't the angry, desperate Karen from before. This was something else, something worse. I stepped inside, my hand in my pocket, ready to call Barbara at any moment. Karen closed the door behind me and locked it. The click of the lock echoed in the empty house. "Now then," Karen said, turning to face me. In her hand was a gun. Time seemed to stop. Karen stood before me with a gun in her hand, and I realized that this had been her plan all along. Not negotiation, not threats. She was going to take those documents by force. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. "Karen, put the gun down. This is insane." Karen laughed, but it was a hollow, broken sound that echoed in the empty house. "Insane? No, Sarah. What's insane is you thinking you can just waltz in and take my family's fortune. That gold, those land deeds, they belong to the Morrison family. They belong to me. I've spent 20 years preparing for this moment. 20 years. Do you have any idea what that means? What I've sacrificed. They were abandoned for over 140 years. Karen, left, buried, and forgotten. They were on my property when I bought it legally. Your property." Karen's voice rose to a shriek, her face turning red with rage. "That should have been my property. I tried to buy it fairly. I offered George twice what it was worth. 3 times. But no. He had to be stubborn, sentimental about his dead wife's memory. And you just swooped in like a vulture and took what was rightfully mine. You didn't even know what was under that house. You don't deserve it." I could see she was completely unhinged. Her eyes were wild, darting around the room. Her hand holding the gun was shaking violently. Sweat beaded on her forehead despite the cool air. I remembered the hidden camera on my jacket. As long as I kept her talking, everything was being recorded. The police would have all the evidence they needed. "Karen, think about what you're doing right now. If you hurt me, you'll go to prison for years. Decades. Is that really worth it? Is gold worth spending the rest of your life behind bars? I'm already looking at jail time thanks to you and that meddling Barbara Henderson. False documents, harassment, trespassing, attempted burglary. They're building quite a case against me. My lawyer says I could get 5 years even with a plea deal. What's one more charge at this point? At least this way, I get what I came for. At least I fulfill the promise I made to my grandmother on her deathbed." She gestured with the gun toward the folder in my hand. "Now give me those documents. Slowly. Don't try anything stupid." I held out the folder with the fake documents. My hands were trembling. "Karen, these documents won't do you any good. Even if you have them, you can't prove they belong to you. The Morrison family line is documented. You're a descendant, but that doesn't give you automatic ownership." Karen snatched the folder from my hand and opened it, keeping the gun pointed at me with her other hand. Her eyes scanned the documents hungrily. "These are perfect. With these, I can prove my claim. I can hire the best lawyers. I can fight you in court for years." "And what about me?" I asked. "Are you going to shoot me now? That won't help your case." Karen's expression turned cold. "No. I'm not going to shoot you. Not unless you give me a reason to. You're going to sign a document I prepared, a statement saying you relinquish all claims to the Morrison gold and property. You'll say you found the items but recognize they belong to the Morrison family heirs. And if I refuse, then things get unpleasant. I don't want to hurt you, Sarah, but I will if I have to. My family has been searching for this treasure for 4 generations. I've spent 20 years studying maps, researching history, planning. I moved to Pine Valley specifically because of this. I bought George's house. I targeted you. Everything I've done has been for this moment. I'm not leaving empty-handed." She pulled out another document from her pocket. "Sign this. Now." I looked at the paper. It was exactly as she described, a legal-looking document claiming I surrendered all rights to the Morrison treasure. This won't hold up in court. It's signed under duress. Maybe not, but it will muddy the waters enough. My lawyers can work with that. Now, Sin." I took the pen she offered. My mind was racing. Where were Barbara and David? Where were the police? They should have been here by now. I needed to stall longer. Karen, before I sign this, can I ask you something? Why did you go this far? You had a good life, a niece. Why risk everything for gold that might not even legally be yours? For a moment, something flickered in Karen's eyes. Sadness, regret? You don't understand. My great-grandfather, Walter Morrison, died a broken man. He lost everything in the gold rush. His fortune, his reputation, his family's respect. He spent his final years in poverty, knowing that his own father had buried millions in gold and then lost track of where it was. Walter made my grandmother promise to find it. She made my mother promise. My mother made me promise. It's been a family obsession for 100 years. I can't be the one who fails. I can't let down 4 generations of Morrisons. That's not your burden to carry. Karen, your ancestors made choices. You don't have to pay for them. Yes, I do, she screamed. Now, sign the document. Just as I was about to put pen to paper, there was a loud crash. The front door burst open. Barbara rushed in, followed by Officer Davis and 3 other police officers, all with their weapons drawn. Drop the weapon. Police! Drop it now! Karen spun around, startled. For a terrible moment, I thought she might actually shoot. But then she looked at the 4 officers, looked at me, looked at the folder of fake documents in her hand, and something seemed to break inside her. The gun clattered to the floor. Karen sank to her knees, sobbing. It was supposed to be mine. It was all supposed to be mine. 2 officers rushed forward and handcuffed her. Officer Davis came over to me. Ms. Mitchell, are you hurt? I shook my head, unable to speak. The adrenaline was wearing off, and I was shaking uncontrollably. Barbara wrapped her arms around me. You were so brave, Barbara whispered. We got everything on camera. She confessed to everything, the harassment, the fake documents, her entire plan. She's not getting out of jail this time. Officer Davis picked up the folder of fake documents and examined them. These are the land deeds. Forgeries, I said. The real ones are in a safe place. We used these to catch her. Karen looked up from where she sat in handcuffs, her face contorted with rage and disbelief. What? Fake? No. Nitrogen monoxide. Those have to be real. I saw them. Officer Davis actually smiled. Looks like you got outsmarted, Miss Donovan. That's attempted armed robbery, extortion, an assault with a deadly weapon. You're looking at 10 to 15 years minimum. As they led Karen away, she was still screaming. This isn't over. Those documents are mine. That gold is mine. I'll appeal. I'll fight this. You haven't won, Sarah. You haven't won. But her voice faded as they put her in the police car. Barbara and I stood there in the empty house, watching through the window as the police cars drove away. It's really over, I said quietly. It's really over, Barbara confirmed. She'll be in jail for a very long time, and you have a whole new life ahead of you. 3 months later, I sat in David's law office for the final meeting. He had spent the entire summer working with county officials, historians, and property experts to authenticate the Morrison documents. Well, I asked nervously. What's the verdict? David smiled broadly and stood up to shake my hand. Congratulations, Sarah. The documents are authentic and legally binding. After extensive review by county historians, property law experts, and 3 independent authenticators, we've confirmed every signature, every seal, every date. The county has officially recognized your claim as the legal finder and current property owner. You now own the original 2,300 acres of Morrison land, which includes all of Pine Valley Estates, the shopping center on Route 17, and several undeveloped parcels near the state park. The total value, including the gold you discovered and the land rights, is approximately $95 million. $95 million. Even after months of knowing this was possible, I couldn't comprehend that number. It was more money than I had ever imagined having. More money than most people would see in 10 lifetimes. What about Karen? Can she still make a legal claim as a Morrison descendant? No. The judge ruled that the Morrison family abandoned their claim when they left California and never returned to reclaim the property. The land and minerals reverted to the county and were subsequently developed over the past 150 years. However, since the original deeds were never officially voided or cancelled, and you discovered them on property you legally own, you have the superior claim under California abandoned property law. Plus, given Karen's extensive criminal actions, the judge ruled she forfeited any potential heir rights she might have had. The decision is final. Barbara, who had been sitting quietly, reached over and squeezed my hand. What are you going to do with all that money? I had been thinking about this for weeks. First, I'm going to pay off Emma's father's medical bills. George shouldn't have to suffer, because Karen victimized him too. I'm giving him $500,000 to rebuild his life. Barbara smiled. That's very generous. Second, I'm donating $2 million to the Pine Valley Historical Society to preserve local history and maintain the old cemetery. The Morrison graves should be properly cared for. They were pioneers, even if their descendant was awful. And third, David asked, Third, I'm establishing a foundation to help people who have been victimized by HOA abuse and neighborhood harassment. Karen wasn't the first person to use HOA rules as a weapon. There are probably thousands of people like me out there, being bullied and intimidated. They need legal help, and now I can provide it. Barbara's eyes welled up with tears. Sarah, that's beautiful. I'm so proud of you. And you, Barbara, I want you to run it. You stood by me when no one else would. You risked everything to help me. I want you to be the director of the foundation. Full salary, full benefits, whatever you need. Barbara started crying in earnest now. I don't know what to say. Say yes, I said, smiling. Yes, Barbara laughed through her tears. Yes, absolutely yes. 6 months later, I stood in front of the Pine Valley Community Center at the grand opening of the Morrison Justice Foundation. The room was packed with over 200 people, reporters, community members, and people who had already reached out for help. I took the microphone. When I moved to Pine Valley 2 years ago, I just wanted a quiet place to live and decorate my garden. Instead, I found myself in a nightmare of harassment and intimidation. But I also found something else. The strength to fight back, and friends like Barbara Henderson who stood by me. The crowd applauded. Barbara smiled at me from the front row, tears in her eyes. This foundation exists because of what happened to me, but it will help thousands of others who face similar situations. HOA abuse, neighborhood harassment, property disputes. These destroy lives. They drive people from their homes. But now we have the resources to fight back. More. Uplus. I saw Emma Williams and her father George in the audience, both smiling. The Morrison family buried a treasure that caused nothing but pain and obsession for generations. Their descendant Karen Donovan let that obsession destroy her life and hurt countless others. But now, that same treasure is being used to help people, to protect communities, to ensure that what happened to me never happens to anyone else. Thank you all for being here today. Let's make a difference together. The crowd rose to their feet, applauding. As I stepped down from the podium, Jack came over and shook my hand. Sarah, I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you more when Karen was terrorizing you. You were brave when I was a coward. You weren't a coward, Jack. You were scared. Karen was scary. But it's okay now. It's all okay now. That evening, I returned to my house, the house that had started this whole incredible, life-changing journey. My garden was beautifully maintained now, with the colorful pinwheels and flags that had caused so much trouble. But this time no one complained. The neighborhood had changed completely. People smiled and waved. They brought me baked goods and invited me to parties. I stood in my backyard, looking at the exact spot where we had excavated the Morrison gold. The hole had been filled in. The basement floor, professionally repaired. You would never know that $10 million in gold had been buried there for over a century. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Barbara. Just got our first official case. Single mother in Oakland being harassed by her HOA because her son's wheelchair ramp violates the aesthetics clause. Ready to fight? I smiled and texted back, always ready. Let's help her. As for Karen, I heard through David that she had accepted a plea deal after months of legal negotiations, 15 years in prison with possibility of parole after 10. Her lawyers had advised her to take it rather than risk a trial where she could face 25 years. She would be an old woman when she got out. Part of me felt genuinely sad for her. She had wasted her entire life chasing a dream that was never meant to be hers. But mostly, I felt grateful. Grateful that I had survived. Grateful for Barbara. Grateful for this opportunity to help others. The Morrison gold had been buried in darkness for over 140 years, causing nothing but terrible pain and greed. But now it was being used to bring light to people who desperately needed it. And that, I thought as I looked at my beautiful garden in the fading golden sunset, was the best treasure of all. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do with $95 million? Please let us know in the comments.